This is the Cycling Over 60 podcast, Season 2, Episode 9. It's been a year. I'm your host, Tom Butler. There are only 11 days left until my 10-week program wraps up. For those new to the podcast, I'm trying to get down to 200 pounds to help me have an easier time with my challenge this season. So I have been on a restricted food program, and I've been looking at specific exercises to do. At this point, it's obvious that I am not going to reach this goal by the end of the 10 weeks. After the program ends on October 9th, I'll talk about what I learned along the way. For now, I am counting on the work I will be doing with Coach Lisa to increase my strength and eventually get down to 200 pounds. I finished my last group ride of the year, the Cascade Bicycle Club Kitsap Color Classic, and now I am switching over to my new Specialized Roubaix for all my training. This week has been terrible. I had a lot of things that I had to finish up this week, and the weather has been bad, really bad. I'm going to need to do a much better job in the future getting rides in. I'm going to have to figure out how, when it's crunch time with some projects that I'm doing, that I can still fit in time for training rides. I will finish the Great Cycle Challenge in a couple days. I feel confident that I will be able to make my expanded goal of 300 miles. There is still time for you to support my effort to support children's cancer research by sponsoring me. If you want to do so, go to greatcyclechallenge.com and search for Tom Butler. It really will make a difference in the lives of children battling cancer. You can find the link to my Great Cycle Challenge page in the show notes. I want to do a couple things this episode. It has been 1 year since I returned to serious cycling after being away from it for so long. So I'm going to reflect on what this year has been like for me. I will also share conversations that I had with Garren and with Jesse, who both joined me in much of my cycling journey. But before that, I want to give a small taste of the Kitsap Color Classic that we rode last weekend. We planned to use our new mobile microphones to capture a bunch of aspects of the ride, but we were in learning mode with how best to use the mics, so we failed to get as much as we wanted. Plus, the truth is, the ride was really challenging for Jesse and me, and I just wasn't in the place to focus much on capturing audio. So here we go with what we did record. The first recording comes from the ferry ride, and that was really a fun aspect of the event. We're looking at 54 miles today. So it's overcast.
It was really cool getting on the ferry, because I thought we were just going to be in the side wings of the ferry, but like the entire center deck, there was a couple of cars, there was a bus in there, and then just like a sea of bikes laying on their sides and people walking off, and everybody's in such a good mood. It's really just a fun atmosphere to be riding across the water, and you can hear people probably chattering in the background, making friends.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really fun too, riding off.
Yeah.
Just seeing everybody streaming off.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, Jesse. I don't know if you looked at the route very much.
I don't know where we're going.
So we come off the ferry and go up a hill. Pretty significant hill.
Okay. So it's going to be a good warm-up.
Yeah. Actually, no warm-up.
No warm-up.
Just thrown in the fire.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, don't warn me about stuff like that anymore.
Okay.
Is all the 3,500 feet of elevation gain on that one hill?
No. No. I probably wouldn't be doing this if that was the case.
That'd be a lot of hill.
We're on the ferry.
Yeah.
You've ridden the ferry quite a bit commuting, but I think this is like a first for you, riding your bike and laying it down with like 350 other bikes. This is me talking to Garren now. We are upstairs from the deck in the inside passenger area of the ferry, so it's not quite so noisy. When we go back down to the deck, you'll hear a lot more noise. So the recording isn't fantastic due to just the engine noise, and also there's a lot of people talking.
Right, yeah. Certainly never done that.
And so what are you thinking about today?
I think it's going to be a really good day. I think the weather's looking good. I like the temperature it is. I like how chilly it is. I think it's gives you a lot of room to warm up, a lot, and it should be a good time. I really am imagining how many of these people came on here with their car today, hoping to get over to the peninsula for a nice weekend, and they're just wondering why there's 1,000 bikes laying on their side on the bottom of the ferry, because that would be something you'd have to figure out.
Well, can you imagine? I mean, I wonder if they'll let all the cars off first, but there's cars behind bikes.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, someone's gonna have to wait for some cyclists to pedal off in front of them.
Hey, what's happening?
Good to see you.
How's it going?
Yeah, good. Well, Garren and I were talking. Mike Baltiera came by. Mike was on the podcast May 12th. He talked about the major transformation he had in his health because of cycling. So it was really fun to see him. We hadn't met in person before, and just to talk to him about the Kitsap Color Classic. This is Mike. This is Garren.
Hey, Garren, how are you? I've heard about you.
Yeah, great.
I know.
Oh, okay. Jersey here, so that's good.
Well, is yours the short sleeve?
It's the short sleeve.
Yeah, I was going to wear that, but then I'm like, it's too cold for me right now. There you go. All right.
So here we are, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
On the ferry? Good. This is a bit unique experience, like cycling onto the ferry.
Yeah, so you didn't do Chili Hilly?
I didn't do Chili Hilly.
Yeah,
that's on the ferry too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so basically, ride on, go have fun. When you're done, get back on. There you go. Have a good day.
Have you done the Color Classic before?
I did it last year.
Okay.
And it was great last year because it was still summer weather.
Okay.
Air quote
Okay.
summer.
Okay.
It was nice and toasty. It was like in the high 70s, low 80s last year.
Yeah.
I was hoping for the same this year, but
Yeah.
Mother Nature had different ideas.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they're blowing the horn, so maybe we should head down.
Yeah, have a fun ride.
Yeah, you too.
All right,
Maybe
take
we'll
care.
see you along the line.
It's good seeing you.
Yeah.
Finally meeting you in person.
That's right.
It was good meeting you also.
Okay. Okay, that was the cheer as the bike started rolling off. So there are now people
That was a very musical little
in the front that are on their bikes, pedaling. But going super slow. That's quite a sight, quite a cool sight of just the whole main core of the ferry taking up the bikes, the whole road taking up the bikes. Okay, we got off the ferry, and now we're at the Kingston Ferry Terminal. After that really fun start to a ride, we were on our way and climbing and more climbing and more climbing. There was one person I was really anxious to see, and that was Coach Lisa. I knew that she was going to be staffing one of the aid stations, and eventually we made our way to Paul's Bowl, where we met up with her. I'm a completer. How you doing?
I'm like, where's Tom? Where's Tom? Hi.
This is Jesse.
Okay, hi, Jesse. I was like, what is that? Oh, it is a microphone.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Hi. You must be.
I'm
Coach.
Lisa. Yes,
to meet
I'm
you.
Coach
I
Lisa.
recognize your voice from the
But it's
podcast.
really nice to meet you.
Yeah, I know.
Like
Yeah,
here, I've
for
been
sure,
I'm
yeah.
like all day long. I've been like,
Yeah.
where's Tom?
Well, we're not breaking any speed.
Not
records.
supposed to. Not
Yeah,
supposed
yeah.
to.
But-
Not at all supposed to. How's it feeling?
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I had stepped off once coming
Okay.
up cliffside.
Okay.
So-
Oh, can you hold on?
Yeah,
We
for
wanna-
sure. Just an explanation here. Lisa is really fun and dynamic. So she got pulled off to do a picture for a minute. I took the opportunity to ask Jesse how he was doing with the day. So talk to me about your ride here.
Tom, this is a hard ride for me.
Yeah,
I've never ridden so many
That's what
hills.
we're hoping.
It is a hilly ride.
it is.
Yes, so
Yeah.
keep your-
And I was
keep your
like,
eyes
I
out,
got to the top of the first hill and I was like, it should be smooth. Wait, is that another hill?
And
Well,
David-
okay, maybe
David
after that
will-
one
I
it'll
think
be like
David
a
will
plateau.
jump on board.
There was a bit
We
of a
have enough
plateau
volunteers.
for like 10 miles or something.
Yeah.
Like pretty relatively
Volunteer.
flat.
will volunteer.
Well, I think we have one more hill, one more
that would be
significant
amazing.
hill.
Okay.
Okay.
And then
yeah, I
we'll-
mean,
we'll be
obviously,
good to
I
go.
always rather have you as participant.
So
Hi.
you've been here all day?
We have been here all day. So we got
Okay.
here at ODark 30 and helped get the setup. The Penske truck is right over there. So Allison Pringle is one of the organizers as part of Cascade Cycle Club, and she did all of the hard organizing.
Okay.
And so basically, she asked Kitsap Tri-Babes to manage an aid station, and she gave us this Paulsville aid station. So that's a lot of fun because we get the main amount of people. And so since pink is the signature color for Kitsap Tri-Babes, of course, it was needed to be pink and more pink, and everybody brought the pink.
So
in color and attitude and bubbly spirit.
What she's saying is that she is head to toe. Well,
These are even pink shoes. They're just a little soiled.
Okay.
And I am head to toe pink. So underneath is pink. You can't see that on the microphone, but it really is there. And then, of course, the dog had to have a new pink outfit.
Okay.
So this is Gregor.
Okay.
Gregor Goose, and he got his new pink outfit. And then that is our other mascot, Trixie, the Tri-Goddess.
Okay, which is a mannequin.
Which is a mannequin, and she has been with us since 2003 as part of the Tri-Babes, when the Tri-Babes began. And as you can see, she's been rode hard and put away wet. That's a horse term, by the way. That's a horse term. Yeah, so she's got duct tape, she's got KT tape, she's got medical tape, but she just keeps on ticking.
Now, has she gone to events?
Yes, she often went to the Danskin with us.
Okay.
She was always at Tri-Turtle Tri, and she was at all of our trainings, and so then she'd always have a different outfit for the, so she always gets different outfits. So this is kind of her BarbieCon, kind of her BarbieCon outfit.
Gotcha. Right. So it's gone well.
I want to hear how it went for you.
So it's gone well. It's gone really well. There's the hill in Cliffside. Do you know that hill? So I got
a horrible hill.
Up to 170 beats per minute and stepped off there.
Okay.
And I was so close to the top, but I was like, I think I'll do this. So,
yeah. Well, better safe than sorry for so many reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, not just, you don't want to overdo and then hurt yourself in some way, but also like on a day like today when you're doing a really long race and, it's not a race, it's an event. If you push yourself anaerobic, it's going to take you so long to recover from that, that you don't need to do that.
And then I think there's one more hill. Do you know?
Yes. So there should be one more hill. You've got about 12 more miles to go to get back to Kingston.
Okay.
And yes, there is another hill. Although when people have been asking me, is there another hill? I say no while shaking my head yes. Because they don't really want to hear that there's another hill.
Well, we saw Allison in Port Gamble.
Okay.
And she's like, it's pretty flat between here and
But that's flat by Kitsap County standards. So you know what I mean? That's like a Floridian saying, it's not that hot today.
You have to kind of
it's hot.
Calibrate that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very hot. But they had 815 people registered.
Okay.
And people came over in waves on the ferries. So they had multiple ferries. Out, for the race. And I think a significant number of people kind of came over on a later ferry than they were expecting, so that's why we've got a little more people here at this time.
Well, we got off in the earliest ferry, so that kind of shows you our pace.
Well, good. You did exactly what I told you to do.
Yes.
I told you.
Well, you told me to do 33 miles.
I did.
So I did disobey that.
Okay. Well, as long as you're doing it easy.
It's going good.
As long as you're doing it easy.
Yes.
That's all I wanted. But if you did the Hansville loop, and if you did the Hansville loop first and now you're here, you don't have to apologize for that pace at all.
Yeah, okay.
If you were only doing the 33, like I had said, then you would have to apologize for that pace.
Yeah, well, we'll see how, what it's like to get to the top of the next hill, but I feel good. So
okay.
I think I'll be okay.
But correct me if I'm wrong afterwards, but I do not believe that the next hill, that the incline is as steep as the horrible hill.
No, it's not like that.
So,
no. I'm thinking maybe 5%, something like that.
It's not a Tour de France.
I think it's a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's not a Tour de France.
No, right.
It's a, it's a mere mortal hill. So you can make it up it.
Well, it's good to see you.
Good to see you. Okay, so if you need any food, Allison has made sure that there is so much to do for people. So, the Cascade Bicycle Clubs, they sure know how to provide some aid stations because we've got like a water tree there, which I think is so cool for people to refill their water bottles. And then there was pizza up there. There were donuts. We made homemade peanut butter sandwiches for everybody. There was fresh pita bread with hummus, and there was pickles and pickle juice.
Okay.
And I was shocked at the pickles. Woof, those were popular.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah. And I missed them. So I missed them.
There might be still more up there. Go check and see.
Yeah, I will check that out.
Yeah, and
I bet I definitely need water. So is that?
Oh, okay, water.
Oh,
there.
right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's Gatorade up there or something?
Yeah, Gatorade's to the left, and then there probably is pickles. There's probably pickles.
All right.
Okay. Well, I'll
see ya.
talk to you soon, and
Okay.
we'll get next week all planned out for you.
Yeah. I'm just yours.
Okay,
tell me what
I
to
love
do.
that. I love that. And I feel like you are on track to exceed your goal for
We'll
the
see.
mileage for September
yeah.
for your challenge. So,
Well, yeah. So I'm at
That's-
after today I'll be at 250
yeah,
something.
yeah. So,
yeah, so that's good.
if
But
you want to get to 300 by
yeah.
the end of the week, I think
I'm gonna bump it up.
we can scout that out.
Yeah, I think I'll bump it up.
Okay.
Yeah, and do a nice long ride on the Roubaix.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I think you can get 300 by the end.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, go
Okay.
imbibe.
Okay,
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. Thank you.
we'll see you.
I was wrong about that last hill. It was not easy. It wasn't like a 5% grade. In fact, it was a category 4 on Strava. And if you look at it, it's got like 13% grade, 15% grade. At the beginning, it's pretty steep, and then it kind of levels off a little bit, and then it's a kind of a grind to the top. It's a 1.42 mile section, and it was not easy. But we did make it up the hill, made it back to Kingston. We made it back to Kingston just as they were pulling down the finish line. If we would have been 5 minutes later, we wouldn't have made it before everything was torn down. Yeah, that was a struggle. But we got back on the ferry, and all in all, I just really loved that route, and I'm looking forward to doing it again next year. The Kitsap Color Classic was a great event to do at the end of my first year of getting back on a bike. It was such a big challenge, and a year ago, I would have never believed that I'd be able to push myself that hard. It is amazing what a year of cycling can do, and it really shows that at 60 years old, there's such a huge capacity for improving fitness. I do still have a ways to go, and I am really looking forward to how much improvement I can make with another year. I remember sharing with my family that I wanted to do the STP for the first time at 60 years old, and I was really surprised that Garren committed to do it with me. He didn't even have a bike to use at the time. The biggest thing was how honored I was that he was willing to commit to hanging out with his father-in-law for all the training and to support me for the STP. I talked with Garren this week to reflect on what the last year was like for him. Hey, Garren.
Hey, Tom.
So this summer was a different summer for you in that you did a lot of biking this summer.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember when you bought your Roubaix.
I think it was in March, late March.
Okay. And so from then until now, kind of what has transpired for you as far as your interest in biking?
So around the same time I bought the Roubaix is when I started the job I'm currently at, which gave me the opportunity to be able to bike to my job. And of course, using the Roubaix for that. That really opened up the gateway for me to be cycling every single day. And it was through that I started to see like very noticeable, very visible signs of like a dramatic increase in personal health, and not just like visually, but also I'd go hiking or backpacking or climbing at the gym. I could climb a whole grade higher at the bouldering gym than I used to be able to, despite the fact that I haven't been climbing that regularly. Actually, I'm climbing less than I used to, but I can climb a higher grade because my general fitness level has so noticeably gone up just from riding the bike every day. And so that really motivated me, seeing like such immediate results from that. And so then going on weekend rides was just as much fun and felt really good. And the whole summer was kind of this big uphill grade for me. Like I felt like from the beginning of the summer to the end was this super linear improvement that happened. And so that just was so motivating. And I was like, more, you know? It's interesting too, because I just was recently talking to a friend of mine back from college, and they were talking about almost an identical experience buying a bike in actually a specialized Diverge they had, which is very similar to the Roubaix, and buying it in March. And then over the course of the summer, just totally changing their perspective on cycling. They said they used to honk at people on bikes, and like they used to hate bikers and be like, I'm never going to put on all that spandex. And here they are, and here I am, right?
Yeah, wow.
I used to make fun of my roommate in college. One of my roommates was really into cycling, and we would as soon as he left, we'd make fun of him for wearing his spandex, out on his rides. But and then here I am now, right? It's just been such a rapid onset thing that I've really enjoyed this activity, and it's been such an improvement in my life.
When we first were talking about doing the STP, I think that you were interested in it because you had never done anything like that, much of an endurance event or anything.
Yeah.
Do you feel like now you've really accomplished things through what you've done this summer?
Yeah, I feel like I've accomplished things that I never thought I was going to be able to accomplish in my life. I used to look at pretty much all forms of endurance athletics and just think to myself, I could never do that. And I remember the very moment that I realized, hey, I can actually do things that are kind of impressive on this bike was when I was riding. I took off from around here at the house and I ended up on the interurban trail. I was heading south. And I remember biking for a little bit. I'd been biking for maybe an hour and a half. And I was really enjoying myself. And then I looked up and I saw the sign. It's like, welcome to Auburn. And I thought, how did I get to Auburn? That's like a 45-minute drive from here, you know?
Right.
And I had gotten to Auburn in probably less than 2 hours. And just seeing how much distance I had covered was baffling to me. I didn't realize like how the kind of the scale of what cycling can be. So ever since I did that, I thought, man, you can really cover some decent ground on a bike and feel really accomplished and feel like you've really done something and been somewhere.
And to give people who aren't familiar with this area, so that's like coming from downtown Seattle to Auburn, just south of Seattle a ways. And that was, I think that was cool to kind of experience you because you were close to where we were. So we got lunch.
Yeah.
You know, which was a surprise that you just cycled down and we had lunch. That was fun. So you did 3 rides. You did STP, which is 2 days. I think we did like 209 miles or something like that.
Given our little detour, yeah.
Given her a little detour. And then you did the RSVP, which is the ride from Seattle to Vancouver and Party. And that was like 191. Do you know what you ended up doing? Were you about at that?
I never took a wrong turn, so it should have been right at 191.
And then we just got done doing the Kitsap Color Classic, which was a 50. I had 50 miles. Jesse said that we went longer than that.
Yeah, our computers sort of diverged a bit there.
Yeah, and that was a different ride as well. But they were all rides done by Cascade Bicycle Club. And those were the first organized events that you had done. Mm-hmm. What's your feeling now about doing organized events?
I really love organized events. I think that they bring with them a greater sense of accomplishment. You've kind of completed something that is prescribed, rather than just going out and doing something that you've defined. There's this kind of defined goal that you share with, up to 6,000 other people in the case of STP. And that really gives you a sense of community along with it. Showing up at those, the first couple stops, for example, at any of these rides when everyone's kind of in a bunch still and you all, 1,000 of you are at this one stop. And it's really something to see people that have this same interest as you. They have the same lifestyle, and it's really cool to see. And I loved seeing all the different walks of life doing it, all the different kinds of bicycles you see doing these rides, especially STP. I think that one was the most creative that I've done so far. But it's just been a really great community, really great environment to be in.
And now it's kind of being more used to having support, kind of knowing what to expect at aid stations. When we launched off on the STP, we didn't really know kind of what an aid station or a food stop was going to be like or anything. And so now we kind of know that. Comparing these 3 rides, how would you say that they're different? Were there anything that were the same? Did you feel like they were very different experiences? How would you talk about the 3 different rides that you did?
So all 3 of them have been very similar in the terms of their structure with the aid stations. It's always been the same, I think literally down to the same snacks almost at each aid station and the bins that you get it from and everything. And so that's been very easy to navigate, as well as the whole organization of rider bib numbers and your rider packet in the mail. And that's all very consistent across all of them. So by the time we get to the Kitsap Color Classic, like I know the drill. I know how to put my bib on my bike. I know how to, go to an aid station, and I know what to expect when I get there. Of these 3 rides, the culture of each one was very different from each other. STP was obviously their biggest ride, and just the sheer number of cyclists on that ride really helped to make it a cool experience. And you see all sorts of people on all sorts of funky bikes and people in costumes and tutus, all kind of having fun with it. And then when you get to RSVP, that was a very different energy. Everyone was on high-end road bikes. People were very serious about that ride. Almost everyone was, wearing a jersey and was taking it pretty seriously. And that's, and it makes sense after completing that ride, because that was a tough ride compared to STP. It's a lot more elevation gain, especially in the first day. It's much more rigorous. So the clientele there was a little more serious about what they were doing. And then the Kitsap Color Classic was definitely the most casual. but I think it's a little less iconic than STP, so people weren't as excited to, put on a costume for it. It was just a lot of people out for a weekend ride, having a good time. And because of the difference in the amount of riders is really something that defines these events too. You have, 6,000 riders in an event is going to make it feel a lot more diverse. And also, you're always going to see other cyclists. At STP, there's always, you can look behind you, look in front of you, and you'll see someone, at least in the distance. RSVP, you can usually see people, but there were times when I couldn't. Whereas the Kitsap ride, we were all spread out. There was a couple different course options you could take. So everyone that started the ride could have been anywhere by the end of it, and you wouldn't have seen them. So that was kind of a different experience as well. By the time we finished that one, we were all by ourselves. We weren't even sure if we were on the route by some point. So we were like, this is going to end at the ferry at some point. And that's
my phone
what we knew.
Battery died, and so we had been using Reg with GPS, but then we were dependent on the markers on the road, the paint on the road.
Yeah. But yeah, they were each unique, and I'm excited to do more in the future as well. I've really enjoyed all of them.
So there was a real difference in the intensity of the STP and the RSVP. I think I understood right that most of that intensity was the first day. Mm-hmm. So if the first and second days had been kind of the same elevation gain, then it would have been a really easy ride. Is that right?
It still would have been more challenging than STP. I think it's about 1,000 feet more elevation. Okay. So it would have been, maybe 20% more challenging than STP was. But I think that overall it would have been a more similar experience. But because of how concentrated both the elevation and the distance is in that first day, because the halfway point is 109 miles in, and then I biked to our hotel an extra 3 miles, so I didn't cut the course. Right. And so that ended up being a 112-mile day for me. And almost all of the elevation is in that first day. So even if it was distributed, it would still be a little more difficult. But that first day in particular is a pretty strenuous ride in comparison to STP.
You went from being a really novice rider in February. I don't know, you had a different bike. I'm not quite sure, maybe the end of the year. Did you start riding more in February?
I think that was probably around when I would have begun riding on the weekends recreationally.
So you're really novice rider at that point. Mm-hmm. And then, taking on the RSVP, how did you feel as far as, I guess I would ask it this way. Do you feel like next year, if you do the RSVP, then you'll do a lot better than this year?
I would like to hope so. Yeah.
Okay.
Doing this bike riding has opened doors for me in other areas to look at, what else am I capable of? I didn't know I was capable of riding a bike 200 miles. What else is there that I don't know I'm capable of? Yeah. That's led me to run a half marathon, not an event, just on my own, to see if I could do it. And I did it. And it's also got me thinking really seriously about going into other areas like triathlons and seeing if I would be any good at that, right? And so hopefully as I branch out more, my fitness level can improve across the board, and by consequence, my ability at cycling should improve over time as well.
Of these events that you did, which would you say was your favorite?
I would probably say RSVP was my favorite. I really enjoyed the challenge of it, and the scenery of RSVP is beautiful, and of course crossing the border, cycling to another country is an awesome experience to have. So I really enjoyed that ride, and I'd never been to Vancouver before, so I'm kind of pedaling in awe the second day, taking in all the scenery, So that was a really, really fun ride.
Now, the one thing that you didn't have was a pace line on any of the rides. On the STP, you pulled me, and then you didn't on the other two rides. You didn't have a pace line. Do you think that's something that if you do the RSVP again that you would like to have, is a group of people that were pulling each other?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually an adjustment that I made during the ride. Day one of RSVP, I hardly drafted with anybody, and it really hit me hard because there were a lot of flat sections with incredibly strong headwinds, and it really paid off to have a pace line. And so day two, I had to make an intentional decision of let's get out of your shell, let's talk to some people, let's make conversations and not be scared to latch onto some groups and really work together as a team with them. And I did. I was able to latch onto a couple of different groups and give a pull throughout the day, and ended up making some friends that we're still in contact with now. So really getting out of my shell that second day was a good decision, both personally and as a cyclist.
I have work to do if I'm not going to really hold you back. So I'm going to be working on some things. And I think that you will. I really believe that you will step up your cycling as you get people to train with and get used to riding with. So I'm kind of hoping that you do the STP in one day.
I'd love to try it.
Yeah.
To me, cycling has really clicked as like this thing that I am inherently good at and that my body is kind of made for.
Yeah.
Like my wife is a really good swimmer. She's proportioned as a swimmer and she excels at it. And I've played a lot of sports in my life and I have never really found that click. But when I was getting my bike fitting, the bike fitter himself pointed out, like, my legs are naturally kind of in a straight line with the pedals. I have a build that is good for endurance athletics. I have I have a good amount of fat that I can use as reserves. And, I just generally have this build and this body that are conducive to cycling. And so really finding that niche and clicking into it has felt really amazing over the summer. And I'm excited to see where it's going to take me. And hopefully STP in one day is something I can do in the near future.
Now, you're a mechanical engineer, and I think that fits with kind of your interests in life too. And so how is cycling from that perspective? How, like the gadgetry and the specs and the materials and all that stuff, have you been surprised at how interesting you found that side of it?
Oh, absolutely. I was just talking to a friend the other day. We were talking about trail running, and I said, I love trail running. I love running, but there's not enough gear involved. Like right. You go to REI and you buy your shoes and you're like, that's it. I got my shoes, right. And you go run. But there's something about being a gearhead and like going to a bike shop. I was just at a bike shop before we came here and just like perusing the selection and seeing like, how can I upgrade what I'm doing and, get a little bit of an improvement out of it. And I love it. It's been a lot of fun. It's also fun to take a bike around my daily life, commuting on it. And it's like, how could I make this bike into a better commuting vehicle? How can I get groceries on this? How can I hang my takeout bag off the handlebars? It's been great.
Well, I've sure enjoyed biking with you and going out. We did the 60 miles on my 60th birthday and other rides, and I'm looking forward to that. And just looking forward to what 2024 is going to bring. When we start up, we're looking at the Chili Hilly in February as an organized ride to be on, and I'm excited about that and just looking forward to whatever it brings.
Yeah.
So we'll keep rolling.
We'll do.
See what happens.
Awesome.
Jesse is such a good friend. His background in audio production has been a big help to me with the podcast. But way more important to me is the way that Jesse treats me and really everybody he comes in contact with. He is just a really good person. Jesse knew early on that I was training for the STP, but we really didn't talk about him doing it at first. Jesse wasn't interested in biking at the time, and a few months after I started training, he had his knee surgery. There was a huge question in my mind about biking and his knee. If you want more information on how his surgery actually became a big motivation for Jesse to get on a bike, listen to the April 27th episode. Now, we have had so many fun rides together, and Jesse has totally embraced cycling. Here was a conversation I had with him following up from the Kitsap Color Classic. Hey, Jesse.
Hi, Tom.
We're here to talk about the Kitsap Color Classic, and really this is kind of an end of a summer where we've done group rides. You've never done any group rides before.
I did the STP with you, and then that was my very first. Yeah, this is my first summer ever.
Yeah,
doing an organized ride. Yeah,
and you did too. I did 3. I did because I did the wine ride also. This ride, there was a difference between the two. The STP was
easier.
The STP was like 200, and I think we did 209 miles.
I don't care how long it was. Like when I was doing this ride, I was like, the STP, I would rather be doing that right now.
And this route was, I think we only did 50 miles. I was expecting 54, but somehow we did 50.
My odometer showed 54.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what happened with my Strava. But anyhow, so it is funny that this was a shorter ride and only one day, and yet it's easier.
No, harder.
I mean, it's harder. Yeah, the STP was easier. So talk about that.
Okay. I was not ready. Like, after the STP, I was like, I think I've got cycling down. Like, I did that, so 200 miles, And I realized during this ride that it's important to continue cycling between events, which is one of my deepest motivations for doing events is all the training that happens between, helps you to stay in shape. I didn't cycle nearly as much as I should have. I certainly didn't do as many hills as I should have. And that's where this ride took me by surprise, was how many, like you said, you were on the ferry on the way back, you said we were either going down or up. There
Right.
was some flat area like right before Polsbo, but I was just totally surprised by how much 3,500 feet of elevation gain in 50 miles is painful and almost undoable if you're not kind of ready for it. So I was in the back and struggling. My legs were just hurting like so much. My heart was pounding. I was breathing like a rabid dog, like trying to make it up these hills. And then Garren is up in the front, like just waiting, Not only was he waiting, but he was also resting like for the next one. But I saw you ahead of me and I was like, man, I need to have more. I think it was, I need to have more fear of these hills so that I can do the training that's necessary to be ready.
You had done a hard ride that week.
Yeah, I think that set me back as far as my capacity for the hills was concerned because my muscles, my body, I was not out of recovery. But it was like, that was kind of like a cramming the night before an exam kind of a ride. I was like, I better try this. Right. Even though I knew from listening to this podcast that it's better to rest and just do light rides with short amounts of high intensity, I wanted to try to earn back some of the, I was like, wait a second. Anyway, so that was a mistake too.
So those are things not really conceptualizing what the elevation gain would be like. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that we have a lot more experience now. Mm-hmm. The SDP prepared us for one kind of experience, which is, just going at it for 100 miles a day for 2 days, mm-hmm. relatively flat. Yeah. And this gives us more of a context about what it's like to hit, hills and fairly significant hills. I think if you're doing that much elevation in 54 miles, you're going to be seeing some 10% grades. We saw a little bit more than that. I'm not sure exactly.
Garren said he saw 18 on his little computer.
I think that was me that said that.
Oh, was it you? Garren doesn't use a computer, does he?
We're definitely 13, almost 14% grades. So I wouldn't really know what, a mile of, or even, I don't think it was that long of a stretch, but even a tenth of a mile of a 14% grade, what that feels like mm-hmm. before this.
Yeah. And now we know.
One of the interesting things was we were told by Allison, one of the organizers who's been on this podcast, we were at a stop that she was manning and she's like, yeah, it's relatively flat from here to the next stop. There's one hill, but after that, it's relatively flat. And we got to learn that when people that live on the Kitsap Peninsula say things are relatively flat, for those of us that ride the Foothills Trail through a valley, mm-hmm. that doesn't translate into flat for us.
No, I think that they forget how flat most of the country is. and they're used to hills, they don't have an option to ride on flat surfaces.
Yes.
We have the interurban trail. We can go for 50 miles with a 1% grade max. You know? And most other parts of this country, there's huge areas where it's just so flat. But the Kitsap Peninsula, it's like riding over a giant set of molars.
You're what? How old are you?
I'm 41.
41. So you're a youngster as far as this podcast is concerned.
Yeah.
So I think that, your experience is really valuable as your perspective of someone that's new to cycling. Again, these were your first group rides you've ever done. The longest ride you had done before this summer was 20 miles.
Yeah. And this is the summer where I started biking.
Yeah. So I think what that, there's a bit of a measurement there. If you're over 60, if you're over 55 and you've been inactive, you doing something like that unprepared would mean more downtime, more risk of injury, maybe.
Yeah.
More recovery time.
There certainly was more risk of injury. I feel that because of a lack of experience, I wasn't shifting gears proficiently. I would coast as far as I could, pedaling in an extreme, an aggressive gear. And then I because there's no like flat area or gentle change to the next incline, I was like going uphill before I started to try to change gears. And 3 times, because I'm trying to shift gears from the large ring to the small ring in the front, and I'm already torquing the pedals to try to not fall over. Shifting gears in that situation caused my chain to jump, and I dechained. And then I'm rapidly trying to unclip, and like I almost fell into a ditch once because I was like falling, because my bike had stopped. And so one thing was just the discipline of knowing how to shift properly, and that comes from inexperience. And then the stamina, just to be able to keep pedaling as you are going up this hill. It was just slow for me.
Yeah, I think there's a way for us to do some training, and maybe even going out to the Kitsap Peninsula and doing some sections of it. There's definitely sections I'm not going to do right away. But, there's some sections of it that we might do.
Well, I mean, my reaction to all of that, the next day, I went on to YouTube and I was like, hill climbing, and I saw some guy with the last name Feather. He's like the record holder for the steepest hill, and stuff. And I just watched all these videos about hill climbing and stuff on bicycles. And I was like, what do I do? Like doing all this research rapidly, absorbing information. And that's a cool byproduct of not doing well,
Yeah.
Is a fascination with how can I do better next time.
Yeah.
So we have that pretty brutal hill that's near us, that Lakeland Hills hill.
I was thinking specifically about this aspect of learning to anticipate what gear you need to be in.
Okay.
Because I think that was a weakness that was revealed on this, is as you were coming down, again, it's like we're either going down or going up. So there'd be a little bit of a transition in the bottom, and then you're climbing. Yeah. So you're blasting down, 30 miles an hour or whatever. And then there's a little bit of a transition, and then you're going up.
Even more embarrassing, it happened at stoplights. Like you come down a long hill and it ends at a stoplight, and you can't use your, inertia to continue happily moving forward without any effort. And I'd pull my feet off the pedals at the stoplight, and then the light would change green, and we'd start pedaling, and I'd be like, oh, standing on the pedals, and
Yeah, so I think that's something that would be good for you to get more of a feel of. I feel like I have a pretty good feel for that.
You didn't seem like you struggled at all.
Yeah.
Retrospectively, I was impressed. While it was happening, I didn't really notice any of that stuff. I was just too anxious.
Yeah, but it does make a big difference when you're anticipating how far to shift down. In a few months, there's something called the Chilly Hilly. So in February. So hilly is like in the name. What do you think? You going to do it?
No way. I take that back. The idea of being ready for it is actually really attractive. I know it's going to take work. It seems like it's probably more intense than what we did. I don't know how long it is, or I don't care about if it's cold or not. But the hills, I mean, it sounds like while I was on this ride, I was like, what am I doing here?
Right.
And afterward, I was just like, I just don't want to do anything with that many hills anymore. But now it's like, or I could be ready. Thank you, Garren. You were really inspiring me. And you actually, Tom, did okay on the hills. But I was like, if I went and I routinely worked on my health, on my cycling ability, the Chilly Hilly could just be fun too, and not something that was grueling and relentless and brutal. So I want to say, I'm going to say yes now. I'm committing to it. But you gave me a lot of help getting me onto my bike before the Seattle to Portland. And I might tap you for more encouragement. Like, hey, did you ride your bike this week? That kind of stuff. If you're willing to do that. That's one of your talents, is to enroll people. So
that's nice. I like that. It's true to say, and this might not be the case, but I am betting that we're going to work harder than Garren between now and February
I think
to do hills.
Yeah.
Now, I don't imagine giving him a run for his money uphill at this point.
Yeah.
But that would be a pretty fun outcome, actually, if he's climbing right now, especially after this ride, but some of what on the STP as well. He was used to climbing to the top of a hill and then finding some place to pull over and wait for us. But it'd be funny if he's going up the hill, and then he gets to the top of the hill and he turns around and like we're behind him. That would be amazing.
That would be so fun to have him go, oh, you guys ready?
I don't get to step off up here.
And Garren wasn't the only one. Quentin, who was with us, he his longest ride had been something like 20 or 30 miles. He had a bike that was more ill-suited for hills than Garren's, unless you're a strong uphill cyclist who's not using your lowest rings, And he kind of kept up with Garren more than hanging back with us. Can I share something personal?
Yeah.
There was a point on this trip, on this ride, when I made the decision to like have like a little group meeting with you three. And I made sure to intentionally inform you that I was in pain and that I was beginning to think of alternatives, like having the ride support people in the truck, come and pick me up and take me to wait by the ferry dock or something like that. And you said, if you want me to come back and pick you up, I'll come and pick you up. I felt supported. I got back on my bike because I had recovered okay at that time. I had some pickle juice, at one of those stops, which was really fun. It seemed really helpful. But when I got back on the bike, you ever been in such a state of desperation where you're like, I think I should have been praying. Okay. So I felt aware of God's presence. And I was like, am I hurting myself? Like, am I doing something that's going to require surgery later or physical therapy? That's how powerful these feelings of pain were. And I felt like God said no, like you're just keep on pedaling. This happened on the STP as well. During the Puyallup Hill, I was like, what am I doing? And I felt like it was like God coming beside me and saying, no hill is infinite.
That's cool.
You just keep pedaling and eventually this is going to go away. The only hill that's infinite is when you're not pedaling. Then there's more hill ahead of you, but eventually this will end. And so at that point, I had been having issues with cramping. And after this prayer session, my cramping issues went away pretty quickly. And I was encouraged and felt like I could keep on going. And I felt aggressive toward finishing again instead of being discouraged. So that was kind of an important moment for me on this.
I like that. And I like the concept of this is going to pass. You're going to get to the top of this hill. You're going to get to the end of this ride. So hang in there.
Yeah.
I was in an interesting place because I wanted you to know, I felt that you probably knew that it was okay for you to stop and that we would figure something out, but I wanted to kind of reassure you of that it's okay. If you need to stop, if you're going to hurt yourself, you're going to do some damage, then just stop. That's okay. We'll manage it. At the same time, I was struggling with how to say that because I didn't want it to sound like, you can stop, Jesse. Jesse, you can stop. Jesse, you can stop. I didn't want you to feel like I was asking you to stop.
Yes. Yeah.
And so we had that moment where it's like, if you want to stop here. And I felt like the way that you answered that was like you understood the spirit of what I was saying. And that was good.
Yeah. It's important to deep listen during times like that. Maybe one important thing to think about as we're talking, I'm just realizing, is there is such a thing as pushing yourself too hard. Because if you're motivated by something other than healthy motivations, like if you're motivated to prove yourself or to show the world or get revenge on your family for saying that you weren't in shape or something, you can push yourself hard enough that you can have a heart attack or fall or something like that. And there are athletes in the Olympics who their motivation's unhealthy. There are football players who are unhealthy about their motivation. So Jesse's message to all of y'all, everybody listening, is know when it's okay to know when you should call it off. And if you shouldn't, but you just want to give up because it's hard, don't.
Yeah. There was one particularly bad hill, I think in about 20 miles, or it was about 20 miles in or something like that, maybe a little less than that. And I was climbing up at it. I was like, I'm going to make this whole hill. And I was so excited. And then my heart rate started going up pretty quick. And so I hit 170 beats per minute, which is like, we're going off of that's somewhere around 95% of my max heart rate. And so I had determined that before, we went even on the ride, that at 170, I would step off the bike. And that was so hard to make a healthy decision at that point.
Well, good
because
for you.
I could see the top not very far. I mean, I had done almost all the hill and I'm like, I got to step off right now. But yeah, so I felt that moment of, I can make a decision to do the wrong thing here, but I'm doing this to be healthy. And that's, that means stopping right here. 170 is higher than what 220 minus age would say is my heart rate. So we're going with 170 is 95% of my heart rate. And that's a good place to stop.
Yeah, there's anatomical variability. I believe that this was potentially my most intense workout of my life because it was like, I'm in this for 4 hours, or whatever. And I was already experiencing pain within the first hour. And I was like, hopefully these hills smooth out. And then I'd hear somebody going, this is kind of what it's like. And I was like, there's more hills this size.
There was one aspect of this that I'm wondering about, and that is when we came off the ferry, like there was a hill. There was a pretty good sized hill right off the ferry that we climbed. There's on this ride, it's interesting because there's really not a way to warm up. Do you think that could have made a difference?
It was like that on both sides. When we got there, you go straight up a hill. And when we got off, there was another hill. So I was like, oh, we're all done. And then somebody mentioned like, yeah, when we get off, where would we park the car? And you said, I have no idea where we parked the car. And Garren's like, yeah, didn't we come like screaming down that hill? And I was like, no. But yeah, I guess it's not important to warm up. We said we'll go up the first hill and then we'll stretch and the hill will be the warm up. I don't know.
I think I'll talk to Coach Lisa about that, there was no opportunity to warm up. And I wonder if that kind of set you up pretty early on. Like you said, within the first hour, you're feeling quite a bit of discomfort. And I just wonder if
I'm realizing it was maybe more discouragement. Because when I had a shift in my mindset, like it's okay to experience the pain. That's just I'm just going to keep on moving and that's okay. Then it was like, shut up, body. I mean, there's that whole thing, shut up legs in the cycling community.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you can experience the pain. Just keep on moving.
I am very committed to us working together to keep each other accountable and like motivated and excited.
Yes.
And do that hill. We have the hill that we can do, and we can do 3,000 feet on that hill. It's about 500 feet each time.
Yeah. We just need to go up and down
6 times.
6 times. And I feel like if we can go up and down, that would be more extreme. Like there's no way, because that hill is kind of ruthless, There's no way that, unless it's all just one hill on the Chili Hilly, it's going to be called the Chili Hill, I guess. But like that's going to be a more intense workout. And,
yes.
And I would also like to somehow surprise Garren.
Yeah. I think Garren is our real motivation, to have him see us behind him.
Yeah.
More often.
Make sure he doesn't listen to this particular episode because he'll be not surprised.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I need to go find some cycling shoes because my toes were getting numb again because my feet are wide and my feet were getting compressed on this ride, just like on the STP. And I still have numbness from July and it's near the end of September in my big toes from that. So I talked to a doctor and they said probably permanent nerve damage. So I need to make sure I get shoes that are wide enough that that my feet aren't squished and I can get circulation everywhere.
All right. Well, let's go do that.
Okay.
It is really interesting how it worked out since I made the decision to set some challenging cycling goals. Garren and Jesse have both embraced cycling more than I would have imagined that they would. That provides an interesting comparison. I am 60, Jesse is early 40s, and Garren is in his early 20s. Following our progress as individuals gives us some perspective on what I am accomplishing with a cycling-focused fitness program. For example, I was able to do better on the Kitsap Color Classic than Jesse. Ultimately, the extra training I put in over the last year put me on par with someone 20 years younger. Jesse is not in bad physical shape at all. He hasn't spent a lot of time on a bike, but he is likely more fit than the average 40-year-old. So I was able to go from really weak and really out of shape to being able to stay up with Jesse in a year. I feel great about that. Now, Garren is another story. He is on his bike almost every day. Commuting in Seattle means he is climbing every day. He is significantly stronger than I am currently. But now I am looking to see how close I can get to matching his ability on the bike. Now that I have the same bike as him, I will really be comparing apples to apples. I believe that I will put in more riding time or more focused on specific strength goals than Garren next year. I'm very intrigued with the possibility to somewhat close our performance gap. A big question will be if Garren gets connected to some top-level cyclists this year. If he gets pushed on a consistent basis by stronger riders, I think he will improve significantly. Right now, he is younger, stronger, and lighter than me. Let's see how close I can get to matching his performance from now until next fall. I would love to hear any stories you have about riding with younger cyclists. I feel so fortunate that I am now starting to get more emails from listeners. And not only did I get to meet Mike on the ferry, but I also got to meet Judson. So that was simply awesome. And Judson revved up the crowd on the Kitsap Color Classic with his bugle playing. That was just the coolest thing. You can find my email and the link to the Instagram in the show notes. Let me know how your summer went. Now get out there and milk the remaining decent weather. And remember, age is just a gear change.